or sit still?
Everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Home Office Talks. Thanks for joining. In this series, we connect home offices from around the world with mine here in Cologne, Germany, to talk about solutions and learn insights on how to recover from the corona pandemic, not only in good health, but of course also in a sustainable way. We've had guests from Hong Kong and Pennsylvania and lots of other places in between. We've spoken English, German, and some Scandinavian languages. And you can check out our full playlist on YouTube to check out all the episodes so far. As always, this is a live broadcast, so a lot can go wrong. And we answer live questions. So please write them down below and we will get to them towards the end of the talk. Today, we tune in from our evening here in Germany to the morning of California, and I'm really excited for today's talk. There has always been a lot of controversy whether innovation can truly happen in big corporations or whether only real startup can be innovative small companies, especially in the fields of plastics recycling. So our today's guest, Miranda Wang, is a perfect person to talk about this. She was named as one of the young champions of the Earth by United Nations Environment and Covestro in 2018 for her startup, BioSelection. And she has won numerous accolades since then, so many to count. She and her teams take on waste plastics that are difficult to recycle and turns them into new materials, putting them back into the stream in the true sense of circular economy. With her today is our freshly baked global circular economy program lead, Christian Haessler. So let's see if we can get them online to our wonderful studio in the background. There they are. Wonderful. And you guys need no introduction because we have all met at the United Nations Environment Award ceremonies. So welcome both to Home Office Talks.
Thank you for having me.
Great to be here. Thank you very much.
And
especially together with Miranda.
And we have even great sound. Cool. So, Christian, Miranda, it's great to have you both and, of course, to see you back together, even though we are doing this in a virtual fashion. So my first question, as always, how are you dealing with the corona lockdowns that we see now as a wave all around the planet? Maybe start, Miranda, with you.
Yeah, I mean, right now is obviously a difficult time for everybody, and we've also been very much affected. But as a young and very adaptive team, we have been able to find ways to work remotely over the past couple of months. And in the shorter term, as the restrictions have changed and things started opening up, we have been able to slowly move our scientists back into the lab and to do so in a safe fashion.
What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I think we have a very similar experience here. Of course, a very concerning topic, Corona, that will probably change also societies. But on the other hand, it's also nice to see how people help each other, support each other, really move together in such a crisis. Covestro has also run productions throughout. I personally, I'm in home office now for several months already, so that's of course a very new experience also. But it's possible, right? Our team works like before, and speaking for the sustainability and circular economy team, I even feel the motivation is even higher than before, right? It's fantastic to see. So we are pushing ahead with these topics also in the current times. But of course, everybody is looking forward to see each other again, really, and interact personally. So we hope it's soon over and we can return to our offices.
Yeah, and certainly the emissions of running a virtual studio from home are less than driving somewhere and doing it live, as we're used to do with both of you, actually. Yes. So both Covestro and BioSelection are on a mission to create a circular economy for plastics. Can you, Miranda, shortly introduce BioSelection and what it does?
Yeah, happy to do that. So we are a plastic circular economy, a chemical recycling startup, and we focus on taking polyethylene plastics, which are very hard to recycle today. The overall recycling rate of low-density polyethylene, based on a report by the CNEN magazine, was around 6%. So it's very low recyclability plastic, and we focus on. I'll show a couple of samples here. We focus on right now materials that are considered post-consumer waste streams, so materials like this. So you can see this is actually an example of a pallet wrap, but it's already gone to the construction site and heavily contaminated with soil and dust, etc. And we also are able to take in materials like these are the black trash bags, for example. So these are plastics that currently, where we are in the world, does not have a recycling market. And we focus on getting this plastic from material recovery facilities, which are well-established waste management companies as part of that waste supply chain. That's where we get the waste. And what we've developed in-house is a chemical process invention that we have named Accelerated Thermal Oxidative Decomposition, or ATOD, ATOD for short. And what happens is we take this low-density polyethylene and we oxidize it in a low-temperature setting in less than 6 hours. And the products after this breakdown are these dicarboxylic acids. And so these diacids are, very familiar to folks in the chemical industry, especially. These are key building blocks for a variety of very valuable and useful materials, as well as compostable materials as well. And so what we've been doing with these building blocks is we've taken it even one step further and we've built back up using them. So it's not just, an intermediate. And so what we've developed are the first material is a thermoplastic polyurethane. This is an example here, a material that is kind of, semi-rigid. We've also been able to cast it as a film. And also you can see that it's definitely an elastomer. We've seen elongations up to 500%. And so it's really exciting because we believe this is the first demonstration of a TPU material with commercial grade properties, but made from, in this case, up to 47% post-consumer recycled content. And based on our calculations, there should be drastic over 40% carbon dioxide emissions, greenhouse gas emissions impact reduction as well. And so we're working right now on commercializing this very first material.
And that's quite impressive, I have to say, considering that only a few years ago you are a very young company and already are quite far in implementing these ideas. And to the audience, I have to again remind you, these are also very chemical specifics, but if you have any questions, we have the best experts on the live stream. So keep those questions, write them down in the comment box, and we'll get them to answer them. Maybe just to Miranda follow up. It's hard to remember, but in a TED talk 8 years ago, you told the audience to imagine that one day in the near future, 8 years ago, humans live in a world where all plastic waste will decay in a few days. And such as problems during those times, again 8 years ago, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and massive landfills will cease to exist. And of course, we know since then your company has made significant progress, as you also just explained. Still, the Pacific garbage vortex, or how it's called, is still there. Landfills are still existing in some countries. So maybe also broader things to both of you guys. What is your perspective on the progress made, also looking back at 8 years ago? And how would you evaluate kind of the progress we have seen so far, also from the authorities and the governments? Maybe Miranda, as we always start with you, ladies first, and then we go over to Christian.
Sure. So when I started on this journey with my co-founder Jeannie, who's also my high school best friend, we were really fascinated by the idea of, can we just make these plastic wastes go away? So when they end up in the landfill, or they end up somewhere in the environment where they shouldn't be, that we could make them just decay and cease to be a problem. But we soon realized that there were a lot of issues around that, because for reasons such as scalability, for reasons such as environmental safety, and also beyond there, it's ideal to turn the carbons that are in these plastic waste into something useful that can go back in the economy. And so that's why we've been focusing on using chemical methods to actually upcycle the plastic waste into materials with high value applications. We also recognize that this problem is very, very big, and it can't be solved by one company alone. And so we're very much for the growing community around all forms of recycling and upcycling.
Christian, you want to build on that?
Yeah, I want to take up the comment, no company or nobody can do it by themselves or alone, right? It's really a common effort we have to make to solve that issues, yeah. And for us as a company, circular economy is the vision. We want to be fully circular because we think with a circular economy, that would provide the answers to the most challenging topics we have as a society, but also as industry, to become carbon neutral and to solve for the polymers producers, of course, the issue of plastics in the environment, where it should not go and where it doesn't belong, right? So becoming fully circular for us means we would change our raw material base completely. We would go away from oil-based products, bio-based products, to CO2, or like Miranda showed, and I have to admit I cannot offer samples today, but we have similar ones, yeah, or to materials that are produced out of waste and end of life of the materials, right? So changing a raw materials base for the chemical industry means a huge effort also. And you were asking for the progress, Nico. I think, yeah, in some areas, in many areas, actually, we see it. Some people might say it's maybe a bit too slow or so, but what counts for me is that there is a lot of companies, a lot of people, a lot of governments that pull in the same direction, right? So nobody can do it alone. So the more people are joining, the more associations, the more countries are joining, the better, right? So it will work eventually. Yeah, we will have solutions we cannot think of now. But if everybody works together, and that is new, right? Circular economy is not a new topic. We had it already in the 90s. We wrote the first patents on recycling our materials in the 90s. They have run out already, right? But now is the time where also our customers, society, suppliers, everybody pulls in the same direction. And that makes me really extremely optimistic, having this huge innovation challenge, but everybody working together on it.
And it's, I mean, everybody has been a startup once. Everybody has started from a small premises, and I think this is a good contrast, because we have Miranda, you're representing a young company, and Christian, you are reflecting experience as it has developed, and Covestro has a lot of experience. Of course, I know, Christian, you haven't been there from the very beginning, but Covestro does have 80 years of experience, and Covestro actually invented polyurethane and polycarbonate. Actually, I went to the foaming shop where Otto Bayer in the 30s went with his invention, wondering what to do with it, a very long time ago. So, you know, it's not like yesterday, but it's also, they were living the same days as Miranda started out. So BioSelection is, of course, a relatively young organization. So I wonder, what can you both learn from one another? Miranda, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're constantly seeking collaborative partnerships, whether to open up applications for the materials we developed, or to look into scale up capabilities and enabling us to commercialize the technology and the products that we've developed. We are currently at the moment looking for joint development partnerships. From Covestro, we have lots of things that we believe we can learn, especially in the field of polyurethanes, which is really a very fantastic material. It's got some amazing properties, and compared to a lot of the things it's replacing, it's actually a very sustainable material. It's very durable. There's a lot of benefits to these materials, and plastics get so much bad press, but really the plastics that are the bad actors are the disposable and single-use ones. And so there's a lot that we believe that we have to learn, and we're very much interested in continuing the conversation with Covestro.
Christian.
Yeah, Nico, you mentioned the 80 years experience and us inventing polyurethane and polycarbonate. Obviously, we have a lot of experience in those materials, and still, even after 80 years having invented it, we are still doing quite fascinating applications, right? And we believe that a lot of applications, sustainable applications, will also depend in future on plastic materials, because they are lighter, they can be tailored, they are well insulating. So we need plastics, but of course not in the environment. Now on innovation, we have to say the way how we innovate changed over these 80 years a lot, right? And from the ingenious inventor, Mr. Bayer, to now, there's a long way and a lot of changes also in the innovation modes we have. Currently, it's just partnerships, it's working broadly together, it's having customer views, it's having partners. It's not doing things alone, right? It can only be solved together. And of course, a startup is much more agile than a large company. I was always impressed by listening to Miranda 2 years ago, how she set up her company and progressed with it is just fantastic, right? And this mindset and creative ideas, that's what we also need, yeah? So the solution is really working together, and we can still learn a lot from each other, no? I mean, let's do it together. Only then we can be successful.
So let's turn the tables. I mean, you mentioned, Christian, 2 years ago you were listening to Miranda, yes. And Miranda was wondering, well, what is this company Covestro all about? Probably, I don't know. So Miranda, do you have any questions about how we have progressed since over the 2 years? Also, Christian, now taking over the program lead job of circular economy. Do you have any questions towards Christian or Covestro, how we have progressed over the last, couple of years? Because you guys haven't seen each other for the last 2 years.
Yes, last time in New York on stage. So
right.
It's nice to meet again.
Miranda, any questions to your peer?
Yes. So, it's people talk a lot about the circular economy, but it's starting to become very obvious that the speed at which we can improve the situation and move into a circular economy is completely dependent on what customers choose to buy, especially, say in their materials. So Christian, how have you worked with customers in the past, or Covestro in general, worked with customers to adapt and adopt new sustainable materials that can maximize the ability to be part of a circular economy?
Yeah, thank you, Miranda. It's of course a decisive question, and we always had the direction of listening to our markets and customers and doing market-led innovation. That is also part of the circular economy now. So we can only do it together with our customers. But as I said before, there is a strong trend in the industry, and not only in our industries, also in our customer industry, to go that way together with us. Now, some going ahead faster, some still waiting, but there is an overall big trend. So a lot of customers are really interested in implementing circular economy together with us, and we need that, right? Circular economy is a whole value chain, so it's not only us, of course not. It's mainly customers, it's suppliers, so the whole chain has to work together. And what you also mentioned is, of course, decisive. It has, at the end, it has to be a good business model, right? It has to be profitable. We want to save jobs, right? We want to transform industries, not lose jobs with it, right? And that is the challenge we have, but we are really looking forward to it, because now all of us, not only our customers, but also us as consumers, we are really ready to go, and that helps us, of course.
So Christian, maybe turning from your side, you haven't seen Miranda also for 2 years. Probably you have had some contact between them, but what would be kind of your question to her, and also looking forward?
Yeah, I just wonder if when we met 2 years ago and you had a lot of dreams and how to run your company, was that all fulfilled, or were you even faster maybe than planned, or slower? And where were the major obstacles or the major successes? Because you cannot plan a startup, right? Several years ahead. So there must have been some surprises for you, I guess.
Yes, I think there are definitely two things that were surprises or just hard to plan around. The first was sort of understanding, when do you scale up? Because private investors that back the company, they tend to correlate success of a new technology with the scale it's at. But a lot of the times, what I have over time come to learn, that sometimes a lot of startups are so eager to show that they scale up too early. And before that, the product is fully proven, and at that point, there's no turning back, and so you lose all that agility that you would, that's valuable to a startup. And so we've had to figure out what the scale-up plan needs to look like for ourselves. The other part that was challenging was figuring out what exactly is our product. And where should we bring it in the supply chain? Essentially, are we a chemical company, or are we a materials company? And then the supply chain, it's got so many detailed steps and players, and depending on the application, it's different. So learning all of that and figuring out where are the opportunities for a small business like ours? Where can we grow? And what are the partners in those ecosystems we can work with? And then identifying our identity and role. So those have been the challenges. And I think in terms of general progress, I think where we are right now on the second challenge, we're faster than I thought we would be. On the first one, it just turns out I think we need to wait a little bit longer before we scale up. And so I think at the end of the day, we've still only been around for 5 years. So we're overall pretty happy with what we've been able to achieve, but we know there's still so much more to do.
Yeah, and the scale up is a challenge also for large corporations, right? Because if you talk about completely new processes, we would also start from the lab and then go towards larger volumes. And the scale-up process is definitely a challenge, maybe even more than the work in the lab before.
And now this is a great bridge to the audience questions, and please keep them coming. We have a great question coming up from Facebook, and we can blend it into the screen now. Just a second as we blend it into the screen, and I will also read out. There it is. The question is as follows, and I think it's a good question. Do we need to target any new market or customers for the product which will be made within the circular concept? And I think this builds on what you guys just both talked about, creating materials and creating ultimately products out of waste or recycled materials. So how do you think about it from the market or customer perspective? Miranda?
I think from a lot of the conversations I have had in application space, and what I have learned is, I think you're not necessarily targeting new markets or customers, especially if the material that is made is something that already exists in the world. You're trying to find a way to incorporate yourself into somebody's existing product. And so it really comes down to the things people care about, which is performance, cost, and sustainability. And I think right now, one of the things that has been really good with sustainability is that we have a relatively standardized way now of looking at it through LCAs. And so we have been working on just learning how to better communicate how our products are different, how this could be valuable to the customers. And so I think these are the types of the three things I think for a company looking to adopt more sustainable materials and circular economy, you need to get a really good handle on what are your expectations and your tolerances so that you're prepared for the new materials and innovations coming out.
Christian, you want to comment?
Yeah, I would agree. I think there is not a need to address new markets, but there might be an option to enter into new markets, of course. No? I think what you can assume that is recyclability will be an additional material property in the future, right? And currently you have a competition between materials for certain applications, and the sustainability effect or recyclability or the CO2 footprint will be an additional material property. So the better your material in these areas is, the more market chances you will have. And that will maybe also enable new applications which we currently do not serve.
Cool. Thank you. And we wait. I mean, in the end, all the products must be circular. I mean, otherwise the planet doesn't work at some point. So looking forward to that. Let's go to the next question. We have a question which sounds like it's directed towards Miranda. Let's get it on the screen. And the question is as follows. Have you conducted any pilot scale study on polyolefin based circular conversion?
Yeah, so we're currently at the laboratory scale, and we're planning a larger scale up to about 100 kilos and above per day. So right now we're in the planning phase of that. We're working on really finding the product market fit for this first thermoplastic polyurethane material, and ensuring that the formulation that we achieve on that is fulfilling, market needs before we go ahead and start scaling up. But we have design for it, and we plan to do so in the next 2 years.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. The next one is for Christian, and also on Facebook. We have a lively audience on Facebook tonight, or this morning. Keep those questions coming. One to Christian, and we can see it on screen now. What would Covestro look for in the startup companies and other partners for the possible joint development projects?
Yeah, currently our innovation focus is, of course, a lot on technology, like Miranda does it, right? So our task definitely is to have recycling technologies available for plastics materials, specifically, of course, in our case, for our materials. So there are different ways of recycling, right? So there's mechanical, there's chemical recycling, like Miranda does it. There is also the usage of biomass or CO2, where we also have a serious project and a leading position. So just contributing to run carbon in a loop technically, I think, is a very strong focus. And I would welcome if there would be more startups, let's say, being active in that area and also coming back to us. Not of course underestimating, like we discussed already, the complexity of scaling up later on, right? And of the necessity of a sound business model. But it's starting with the ideas, right? And looking at such a complex innovation challenge, whatever runs carbon in a loop is welcome. But if there are startups active in the markets, right, creating new business models, how we get hold of the material, how we can sort it, how we can bring it back, that's also interesting for us. So just think along the cycle. It's a cross-value chain innovation challenge we have. So in all areas, I think we are very open to cooperate.
Cool. So the likes Miranda and the likes of her are very, very welcome. And I think this is also something that, to talk about circular economy, it doesn't work unless participants are alongside the circle, because nobody can be the circle. We have one more question, and this goes to Miranda, I'm pretty sure. As per Miranda's discussion, only LDPE, low density polyethylene, I'm not a chemist, but I'm pretty sure that's what it means, has been considered as a recyclable material. What about other polyolefin based products?
So the LDPE, I mean, all plastics that we use today are being recycled to some extent. It's just that the overall percentage is very low. And so what I was talking about earlier is we focus on low density polyethylene post-consumer waste as our feedstock, as our starting material. And the reason we focus on this is because it has currently the lowest recycling rate among all plastics, including high density polyethylene, including polypropylene, including polystyrene, etc., and of course PET. So the other polyolefins like polypropylene, for example, those are materials we have definitely looked at and we're definitely working on. But right now, at the moment, we're focusing on the low-density polyethylene, which on its own is a huge slice of the pie of the overall, 300 million tons of plastics a year. So it's a huge amount, and that's what I was saying earlier. In that there, the opportunity, the challenge is huge, both in difficulty and in size and volume, right? So there's opportunity for lots of companies, and we can't do everything on our own. It takes years to scale up the recycling of one material. So definitely welcome more folks to get involved.
Cool. Thank you very much. These were the questions we had this time, and we are approaching also the end of our broadcast. So, hey guys, thank you so much for dialing in all the way from sunny California and sunny, where are you, Christian? Somewhere in North Rhine-Westphalia, I guess.
Yeah, Bonn, in North Rhine-Westphalia.
In Bonn, true. In beautiful Bonn. So thanks. Great to see you again. Thanks for joining our home office talks, and hope to see you again in real life in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So thanks for tuning in. And of course, to the audience, thanks as always for the great questions. I was really happy to see the good connection to the other side of the planet, all the way to California. Next time, we will also visit a remote place, that being my home country, Finland. One of the most sustainable companies, Neste, resides in Finland. And we have the honor of welcoming their CEO, Peter Vanaka, to our home office talks. He will be joined by Covestro's CEO, Markus Steilemann. So I am very much looking forward to the discussion about renewables as we continue to look into different aspects of circular economy. And for those of you who are still brushing up on your Finnish, Neste means fluid, Flüssigkeit in German. So that's next Wednesday, the 10th of May, from 11 o'clock Central European time, summertime. That's 12 o'clock Finnish time to our huge audience in Finland. Until then, stay safe and stay healthy. Bye-bye.